our next guest keeps the ball rolling with just as much hype. They're building a decentralized NFT auction protocol on Solana. And of course, I'm referring to Burnt Finance, who offers a full service NFT marketplace, allowing anybody to mint an array of NFTs and also list them on a marketplace. Today, we're able to speak with Burnt Banksy, the man behind the historic moment, excuse me, of burning an authentic Banksy. But there's a lot more to this, and it really ties into what I just said above. So it seems like a great movement that is starting. And I'm just going to let Burnt come on and talk about what they're doing. So, how's it going, man? You might be muted. So, just a heads up there.
I am muted. Thank you.
There we go.
Appreciate that. How you doing today? Thank you again for the time and having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Really just excited to talk about the project. So, before we get too far in, if you have a presentation, you can throw that up and we'll jump into it. But I'm just curious from your end, we obviously all pretty much saw the aftermath of the burnt Banksy, but what was the idea of this and what does it really mean beyond that? Because there's a lot more to it than just this surface level event.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess kind of giving a little bit of a background and context, I worked in crypto at a firm called Injective Protocol. Trying to see if these are the right slides. They might not, so if not, fuck it. But I was at a firm called Injective Protocol, doing decentralized derivatives, effectively TLDR, and we had no intention of really starting burnt finance out of the burnt Banksy thing. And I'm sure, I can go through the story of, why we did it, but kind of in the aftermath, really what happened with me was I had found a group of people called NFT Tips, and they had really helped me out. I attribute almost everything to them and the exposure that they got me and the help that they provided, and everything was on Clubhouse. And so about the entire month after, I pretty much fully dedicated to giving back and helping people with their projects. And coming from MF Doom to Pussy Riot to Alec Monopoly to the Naked Philanthropist, it was really, making friends and giving back and really getting this community rolling to where it was. But kind of in this month, I had been a buyer of NFTs for a while, and I had been obviously in the crypto industry working on decentralizing the entire derivatives projects. And we realized that there was a lot to be done. There was a lot of front running. Someone took the name Burnt Banksy off of OpenSea, as there was like a 2-day time delay. We texted the CEO. We got their name changed and we got promoted to verified status, which is great. But for us, right, in addition to the fees, which we were very lucky to afford, but effectively we understood that this was an industry that was promised change and there was no change. We saw a nice wrapping of other aspects, but in order to really be in this kind of movement and we can see where we're going with this. And it's very funny too. You look at any intro to blockchain book and the best example of a use case of blockchain is something like Sotheby's, yet it's the one real aspect that hasn't really been approached, and that aspect hasn't been given to the people. If anything, I'm starting to notice a kind of shift away where people are ideally wanting to be doxxed or etc. And so for me, I think, and I guess I can kind of show this. Is
Awesome.
this slide up? I don't know how. Is that up?
Yeah, I'll add you there now.
Oh,
So
cool.
you're
All
good
right.
to go.
So I'm gonna just like go through this. I'm not gonna lie, I hate decks, but sometimes they just work, right? So what is Brent Finance? We don't take any transaction fees. I'm gonna hit the key points here. And there's some cool shit that we were coming up with just to make sure everything ran smoothly. You know, uh, Number one, font and sizing isn't our strong suit, but there's a bunch of barriers to entry for creators, and a lot of this I don't really have to go through. But I think a big part of this is obviously this shifting consumer sentiment and just really expensive, really crypto is created for the people and to give access, yet we continue to make the same mistakes that we escape ourselves from. And so, oh god, that's so anyway, we raised blah blah blah. I think kind of as we talk about burnt finance, I also this is the wrong deck, hilariously enough. So let me there's different decks for different moments, and this is not the one that I want to talk about. How do I add a new one? Slides.
No worries.
Sorry
You
about
should
this.
just be able to
I got it.
hop on another screen. And I just want
Yeah.
to jump in here commenting on, and let me know once you get that up so we can add it. But I just want to comment on the idea of what you guys are trying to do and how you really saw a gap and look to fill it. Things
Yeah.
like even OpenSea dominates the Ethereum NFT marketplace, and it doesn't necessarily solve too many problems. It's still very
I mean, it's
expensive.
eBay online.
Exactly. And on top of that, like looking at things like Sotheby's, this isn't anything that really embodies too much of the Web3 ethos at all.
Yeah,
So
I think
seeing
it's
you
up, by the
guys,
way.
yeah, and seeing you guys really jump in and fill this hole is amazing.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. Um, so kind of talking about that, right? And here's this is more or less what I want to talk about, right? This is why we didn't pick Ethereum. I know that question's going to come up. Why Solana? There's a bigger answer, but I'm going to answer why not Ethereum. The thing with a centralized auction, right? Bidder, I can look that you have enough money, confirmed by the clearinghouse, and you're good to go. For some reason the background didn't load here because again I hate decks, but in a decentralized fashion, you effectively need to keep bidding and outbidding, and so the fee structure just doesn't work. Another thing that we this is something that we've created ourselves, is the aspect of on-chain collections, as there is a lot of fraud manipulation around the fact that um, collections are just an off-chain list, right? Look at something like Irene DAO, where they weren't ever verified, and so they were allowed to be a bunch to come up, right? We, in addition, we link Bonfida, so you link your Twitter to your pub key. Your pub key creates a collection. Your collection has the NFT, and by this logic, we have everything on chain. And for no longer do we really have to be this oracle of truth. The aspect of something being quote unquote verified is rather antiquated. And so this is kind of what I want to talk about. And I know this is the exact same thing, so don't yell at me. But the aspect of what burnt is, and I know we talk about what burnt is, and the aspect of there being burnt finance. And I know this slide looked a lot different 10 seconds ago when it was, rather than being DeFi, it was three different categories. But I will go into that. Um, you know, we want to see a marketplace as a commodity. At the end of the day, this is especially with months and months of work. The aspect is rather iterated in what does it mean to be decentralized? What does a marketplace mean? Especially as the concept of a marketplace has been extremely centralized for thousands of years. And so, the idea of making it a commodity is a quite interesting aspect where, this is why we don't take any fees. This is why we let anyone post. And for the simple reason of we are just connecting people who want to make transactions. And then I think, it was really interesting listening to the Samurai one before this because, I think you talk to anyone and you get this aspect of utility, right? And I think when we talk about what NFTs are, I think we're so tied to the term of NFT and associating it with digital art that we kind of lose focus of where we are and what we're doing sometimes, right? And so when it comes to utility, right, like that doesn't just purely mean staking. That doesn't just purely mean, leveling up a weapon. There's so many applications to that. And so as you start to look at Burnt, Burnt.com is live. We are fully in mainnet. We are launching our V1 Launchpad next week. So right now we are purely one-to-one NFTs. All of our collection is live, English, Dutch by now. But we are integrating a launchpad to allow anyone just simply uploading layers, picking the rarity, and then making a generative collection of it. And are able to do this in 15 minutes or less. And I think a big issue that we saw is even though there isn't a monetary, even though there's also a monetary kind of barrier, there's also a knowledge barrier too. Um, you know, I think you're starting to see just an oversaturation of generative profile pictures because at the end of the day, when we talk to people and a lot of the people who want to create, they don't know what a CLI is. They don't know what the difference between Solana or Ethereum or how to get a phantom wallet or how to store your private keys are. And I do think a big part of the journey and the process is being that kind of education, right? Is I always love the term of finding the next Einstein in Africa, right? And being able to give people the tools that they need, and removing as many barriers to entry as humanly possible and allowing them to monetize. And I think that's extremely important. And I think when we talk about this aspect of monetization, that doesn't just mean selling. And so now we'll get into the fun DeFi part and the finance part of Brent Finance.
Awesome.
you know and we'll talk in the case of GameFi. I think this is rather basic, right? But you have a supply side and a demand side marketplace, eventually getting everything cross chain, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think a big aspect that we're going to be talking about here, and I'll get into in a little bit, is a lending aspect, which I think, term it as lending, term it as staking, but effectively any way to make money off of what you're currently holding as you anticipate. Obviously you want to hold it, right? And so, first defining the aspect of fractionalization and what that means, because that does play into our lending protocol a lot. And I'm sure you've seen this before, not a, rather simple aspect of fractionalization, but oh, that would have looked so much better if it worked. But I know you can't read this, which sucks, but effectively treating, complete peer-to-peer decentralized lending, all with a, think of a utilization rate determined pool via locked bids that are perpetually moving. I could totally answer questions on this because I could legitimately talk about this for hours. But when we talk about, and this is just getting into the nitty gritty details here, right, where we want to be able to make this simple, right, and the ability to not, you want to know what's going on under the hood, but on the simplest case, not relying on something like a floor price metric or any off-chain metric in order to determine a price, is this so volatile. And I think when we talk about this aspect of lending, we talk about this aspect of DeFi, this is aspects that someone who would go to Sotheby's to get an appraisal, for their $1 million art piece and get a loan, could only do if they had $1 million art piece. And the structure in which we build upon this is to determine that anyone could do this, whether they're having a one soul or 1 million soul NFT. And the ability to then collateralize it back against each other, and get a nice fair lending rate so that we can really grow as a community and incentivize, unlock the liquidity that's here. Um, Timeline looked a lot better when the slide was white, but um, you know, uh, we just launched mainnet. Obviously, kind of Q2, we should expect the launch of a DAO governance, along with, I'll let that speak for itself. New token auctions, currently building out a bonding curve, currently building up when we talk about the launch pad, having that both candy machine, bonding curve, Dutch auction. Because a big thing that we do realize is people a lot of the times ask, well, how much should I sell this for? Unrelentingly, that is the point of an auction house. That's what we're here for, is pure price discovery and making it easy. And so we don't want, I think for us, yes, it's easier to do it by now, but at the end of the day, we want to incentivize everyone to do true price discovery in a matter that's easy to understand, fun, and cool. And I think that's a real big part of Burnt Finance. Kind of Q3, you should see an expansion onto Terra and other EVM compatible L1s, in addition to this kind of pure lending GameFi initiatives. Our last round was led by Andy Mocha Brands, and so we're working very closely with them in order to kind of facilitate a lot of this work. In addition to, of course, liquidity mining, staking, NFT incentives. I think I'm just going to end that there. Kind of the
No, and
points that I wanted to make.
I want to jump on and wrap this up. Like,
Yeah.
there's something that's really exciting here, and really only the base layer is this decentralized auction platform. But I think is what's really exciting and loops all the way back to the context you put in the beginning is the background from Injective. The fact that you guys were, or you yourself were building derivatives. And I think that goes a long way, that there's so many people looking to unlock GameFi and more instruments for their NFTs, like you were talking about, of getting out a loan on them. And this is something where there's a massive gap. So to see the experience of yourself and bringing it over, doing it on a chain like Solana, where the NFT market is continuing to bolster, I think it's just really exciting. Being an NFT holder myself, it's always a question of how to unlock this liquidity. And so seeing people like you in in the space building things out like this gets me incredibly excited.
Appreciate that. I appreciate that. And the thing is, like, we notice it's so interesting because we as an NFT community are really, obviously retail focused, right? And so I don't think the strength is in building the products at the end of the day. I think the strength is in allowing everyone to use the products. And there's a reason why we're marketplace first, right? There's a reason why we want to remove the friction. We want people to understand. We want to be this next frontier of education, of entering the space where, right now the thought loop really is, oh, I go to Ethereum, I go in through Coinbase because my son told me about it, or something like that. I go to Ethereum, I find out about Solana, I get a Phantom wallet. I find out about Burnt, right? And then that is a really long, like that is a really long customer acquisition cycle. Even for Solana as a whole. And I think with Solana picking up and so many amazing people, I was just at the Chicago Hacker House. It's so incredible that now that idea of, oh, well, you go to Ethereum and then you go to Solana is so quickly getting displaced to just purely people coming to Solana. And I think if you were to take one thing away kind of from all of this, it really is just so exciting to see that. It's not a second step anymore. It's the first step for a lot of people. And that is really exciting.
I echo that 100%. As I was saying, we're here at the mountain down. So seeing the community build around these things and really how it's developing in the innovation, it's super exciting. And I apologize for wrapping this up here,
No,
but
no
there's
worries.
a lot going on at Burnt. I mean, we've been following it a ton, and it sounds like
Appreciate,
you guys are really just getting going. It's exciting to see you guys hit mainnet, really hit the ground running.
thank
And
you.
it's not like the momentum is stopping anytime soon. You guys are looking to just bring a ton of innovation into the space.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Next week will be exciting for Launchpad. I'm really, I think that'll be a game changer, honestly.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting. I was actually, just to put a cap on this, I was talking to my roommate here at Mountain Down, and he was just going through the process of minting something like a generative collection, and then hopping on here today and talking about how removing that barrier to entry, but then even just that blanket layer of education in the NFT space
Mhm.
goes a massive way. So it's great to see people in the space really pioneering and pushing for that.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun too at the same time. Um, I think I think a lot of what I say is I'm building what I needed at the time. Um, and I stick true to that.
That's one of the most important things I like to hear, and it seems to bring out some of the best projects. So, really excited for what is coming out of Burnt Finance, and we're definitely going to keep an eye on the further development. So, I just want to thank you for joining us today, man.
I appreciate it, Craig. I love you guys. You guys make some of the best content, honestly.
Great to hear. We definitely try to do that, and looking forward to collabing in the future. We'll definitely have our eye out for that Launchpad launch next week.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yep.
I'll talk soon, and thank you again. Thank you everyone for listening as well.